Hello, and welcome to this episode 205 of Frame and Reference. You're about to drop into a conversation between me, Kenny McMillan, and my guest, Paul Daley, DP of the Righteous Gemstones. Enjoy.
I mean, there was a period there where music videos were huge, but
Yeah.
like everything, like the world turns.
Well, and that was the funny thing too, is like music videos when I was like in college and stuff, you would see everyone really like making their careers, and you'd be studying, the director's series box set, with like Mark Romanek and Spike Jonze and stuff. And you'd be like, oh, okay, I just got to do that. And then by the time you're able to do it, you're like, no, that's the past. We don't, MTV is gone.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah. You started like gaffing mostly, right?
That's right. Electrician.
Yeah. Was that like kind of your goal? Was your goal to work up to being a cinematographer? Did you enjoy
Not really. I mean, I loved being a gaffer. It's a brilliant job. But I loved it. It was one of those jobs where you there was a lot of responsibility, a lot of technical stuff you had to figure out. But it came down to lighting. You had to get through all the technical crap to get to the lighting, but that's where I really learned my craft.
Yeah.
Figured it all out. Got you some incredible directors of photography I worked with. I worked with Ellen Kouros and Eric Edward.
I've talked to Ellen. She's great.
Awesome.
That was on Eternal Sunshine, wasn't it?
Well, I've worked with her subsequently, I mean, I was the rigging gaffer on Eternal Sunshine, and I gaffed commercials and stuff with her, and we did Living in the Material World, the Scorsese doc together. We did, a week or so on that. Yeah, we did all kinds of stuff. And then Bob Yeoman, I worked with him a lot. Eric Edwards, I worked with him.
I've talked to Yeoman as well.
Yeah, Yeoman's the man. I mean, what a sweetheart. Another super generous guy. So, I was sort of a 30-year overnight success.
Yeah. What are those types like? Because obviously Ellen and Bob are top of the craft. Like, what do those type of people teach you when you're ostensibly, in some cases, probably teaching them? Like this, because the thing that's great about like gaffers and stuff is they get way more work than DPs. So I assume you pick up a lot more tips and tricks, so to speak, along the way.
Yeah. Well, it's the DPs are the really good ones. Are very what's the word? They're just so confident. They know what they're doing. They often just let the gaffer get on with it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get specific on instruments. Don't get specific on very much. It'll be where are we starting? You know the scene. You watch the blocking. All the obvious stuff. And someone like Bob just lets you get on with it. He'll come in, look, say put a double in that, put a single in that, turn that one off. Let's go. That's when you've cracked it. You've done a good job, and they really don't do very much. Yeah. They can do it. Obviously, they know what they're doing. But you do it. They like it. You shoot. It's like that.
Yeah, I saw in an interview you talk about how like a director had said that you had, what was it, like better lighting, but it wasn't as natural, and that kind of like changed the way.
Yeah, that changed my life actually. That's a DP called Joaquin Baca Asay. He shot that movie We Own the Night. He's done all kinds of stuff. He's really good, and I gaffed for him for a decade or more. We go around the world doing stuff, mostly commercials. And then that's what happened. One day, I remember we were in Long Island in a bathroom. The camera was in a vanity mirror. And I was standing in, and I was talking to him. And I'm looking in the mirror. He's looking at me in the mirror. And he put his eye in the eyepiece, and he looked. He put his eye in the eyepiece, and he looked. I said, what's the matter? What's the problem? And he said, your lighting is better than mine, but my lighting is real. It's like, bang, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I turned on a dime. I changed everything after that. But remember, as a gaffer, your job is to make it perfect. It's the DP's job to screw it up, to mess it up, to do whatever he wants to do with it. Do you know what it was? She.
Yeah.
But I understood what he was saying completely.
Yeah, I've spoken to a few DPs who've talked about like introducing, I can't remember who called it, but it was like what they called the fuck it light. So they'd set everything up, and then they would just like turn on like a 2K not unmotivated, but just like aim it at something and like bouncing up. They're like, there you go. That's Or another DP told me like the light should be fighting its way into the scene. Like it shouldn't just be there. I've been thinking about that a lot. Like, you know, because especially, you know, like I said, doing doc and stuff, you often just go, all right, you know, 6x, soft, pretty, we're done. But that's not realistic, you know, like, but for documentary, it doesn't really matter. But I think about that a lot now. Like, how do you make it look natural? Like, is it just coming through a window? Is that natural? You know, what is that?
I'm fanatical about it. Look on a stage. I'm absolutely fanatical that it shouldn't look like a stage. It just, on Gemstones, something will be 2 stops too hot back there, and the key grip will be running over there with a net. I'm like, leave it. It should look like something you couldn't control. That's how it should look. It should look like, wow, if I could get a lift up there and dot the sun, that's what I would do. That's what it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to look like you couldn't control that light. That's half a stop too dark. If you could do anything, you bring this down or something. No. And the amalgamation of that is something that looks real. If you're not careful when you go on a stage, everything's within a range. So what you've got is an average. So when you have average lighting, you've got an average looking scene. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what the design has done. You've just given it a blob. I can't stand that either. Like, you know, lights without intention, just blobs of light. It's not for me. That's the LED revolution. You know, everything is just the LED soft look. It's not for me. It's just not really what I like. It's how do you say it politely? It's like lights for people who don't know how to light. Really.
Yeah. You know, there's you just reminded me of something Ellen told me that also has stuck with me. Was we were talking about like diffusion, both lens and light. And she had mentioned how she didn't like the Pro Mist because it was fuzzy. And then she was like, yeah, that's also, I can't remember which diffusion she mentioned, but she was like, maybe it was like Silks, how it's just, there's no intention to it. It just becomes a thing. And I was like, that's interesting. Cause before that time, this would have been like 5 years ago, but before that time, I was like, I just assumed bigger and softer was better. And then the more and more I talk to people, they're like, nah, no.
Well, it's really interesting, right? Because it's I'm going to completely contradict myself. If you have a beautiful woman of a certain age, bigger and softer is what it has to be. You've got to be smart about this. So you can't go into the job with these rules and ideas. It's like, I'm a hard light guy. And then Joan Collins walks out. It's like, you'll be a hard light guy for one day because then you're going to get fired. Mm-hmm. That's not how it works. There are horses for courses, right? But as a rule, as Ellen said, the light should have intention. It's got to come from somewhere. It's got to go somewhere. The light should resolve, you know, just like a camera move. It should resolve. It should start and finish, do something. Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, because when you talk about like lights, you know, being a couple stops too hot or whatever, has that approach changed for you going from film to digital? Because obviously with digital, in many cases, you have a bit more latitude, a little more dynamic range to work with. Like if these things are blowing out, how do you stop it from going from looking natural to looking like an accident?
Well, the thing with film, it was hard to mess it up. I mean, if I preferred film because you would have your happy accidents would be somewhat attractive. The only thing you couldn't do with film, if it was black and you tried to pull it up in the Da Vinci or whatever you're using, it would just go brown. There was just nothing there. So black is black, whereas with the digital, there is a little bit of something. But overexposed highlights in film just resolve beautifully. I mean, it just looks great. It's hard to, you know, like a Fahrenheit 451 kind of thing. Yeah, imagine doing that on digital. What would that look like? Right. Could you do it? Maybe you could. I don't know.
I suppose they did. They did remake it with Michael B. Jordan a couple years ago.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. I don't remember if I saw it. I think I did.
See, no one did. So I'm right. It's right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's probably, you know, I'm going to get hate mail now.
No, I don't think it performed as well as people expected. But
you get my point, though, right? I mean, it's like that. You won't beat 35 millimeter as an aesthetic. There's a commercial issue. It's expensive.
Yeah.
That's it. You can't argue with the commercial viability of bits and bytes. They just, you know, you can make money with it. Producers can make.
Well, and in that sort of following that train of thought, is there a, I suppose, world in which you're in a environment that's not necessarily as easily controlled, and let's say you have the budget, shoot film instead to kind of glue everything together and kind of trick the audience into thinking these uncontrollable elements are intentional.
Nah, I don't think there's ever these days. I mean, the cameras are so good. I'm not sure what environment that would be that you just couldn't do anything with it. Like a volcano, I don't know.
Right.
Nah,
Sure.
no knows the answer to that.
Yeah, because I know a lot of younger filmmakers, especially, are often pushing, like really young, like high school, college kids seem to be returning back to like camcorders. They think that's like a really cool look.
I did a lot. I won Sundance with a camcorder. I think I started on a Vericam and finished on a Sony, or whatever it was, a documentary. Yeah, I mean, they're great, really good looking.
Yeah, I mean, like a modern one or like a DVX 100 or something like that.
Well, it was modern at the time, but it was tape. It wasn't
right.
It wasn't cards. God, I can't remember what it was called. I mean, one of them was a Vericam, and the Sony I just can't remember, but it was HD. And at the time, you couldn't edit HD. So what they would have to do is wait for the technology to catch up. They would transfer it to beta, whatever it was at the time, do the rough cut on beta, and then wait to transfer it. They saw what they did, and then when they had a cut, that's what they would do with the HD. Do you see what I mean? It was like, it was so expensive and stuff.
Yeah. Do you feel like the camera technology advancing has been better, or the light better in the sense of like more helpful, or the lighting technology? Because I know you just said like LED tends to be a little sloppy.
I mean, look, I'm not knocking the LED. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
it's phenomenal, but
it's phenomenal. It's what it does. It's absolutely incredible. But remember, it's got to work in tandem. It's not the be all and the end all. It's like everything is still relevant. Like I still use one of my favorite key light is a Baby Soft, which is they were lighting Marilyn Monroe with Baby Softs. I mean, that light is 80 years old, I would suggest. An FCM, bulbs that long, cove light, bounces, I put a Nestor on it after Nestor Almendra, so he invented it. Nestor on it, stuff some Hampshire Frost on it, and put it right over the camera, or that's our key people with it. And then it's ancient technology. And the gaff from the last movie I was on in LA said, well, why don't you use an LED? And I said, you show me the LED that does this, and I will. And I wasn't being a smart ass.
Right.
There isn't one.
I actually have heard a lot of DPs basically stick to traditional tungsten fixtures for key lights, and then everything else can get LED. But obviously, the spectral output on it, is way better. You catch more of the.
It's pretty.
Yeah.
What's better? It's a long piece of tungsten that's glowing to the point where it's about to melt. I mean, it's a visceral thing that's happening. It's like a candle, and it's without being a candle. It's at least it's somewhat natural. I mean, I remember when people pushed back against HMI. They're like, oh, what is this thing? Look at it. Look at the color.
Spiky.
It's green. It's got all this. It's got all that. It's like, but now, HMI is almost passé. It's yeah. So as far as whether the camera or the lighting advancement is better, any advancement is better.
Yeah. I mean,
just how you use it. You've got to know how to light it.
I'm seeing a lot of people want to go back to, and I've talked about this before, where like people are complaining about things being too dark, and a lot of times it can be the TV that's doing it, not necessarily the cinematography. But but I am seeing a lot of discussion about people wanting to go back to just that like Terminator 2 HMI floating in the middle of nowhere and just backlighting the whole street.
Yeah, let's be honest.
It's a great look.
If you're starting to talk about how bright your TV is, you've got a major problem. Honest to God. It's like when you're sitting in dailies, and I experienced this once as a gaffer. We sat there, projected dailies, and there was a problem. It was soft. And the DP was running up to the projectionist, and he's messing with it. It's like, you got a problem, dude. We have a problem here. It's nothing to do with the projector. It's nothing to do with the television. It's poorly lit, or it's not lit at all. Like some of the stuff I've seen, it's like they're hoping for a full moon, go, 6,500 ASA, F wide open, and see what happens. It's just a blob. Right. What is that? What have you done? I don't know. It makes no sense to me. I mean, I would never do it.
Well, I would assume a lot of it has to do with like when you get in the habit, you know, what we were saying about like digital, producers love it. Like when you have a Venice or something that can shoot 12,800 or whatever it is, 6,400, some people's initial thought is like, well, we don't, this is being rude, but like, we don't have to light it. We can see it. And that's natural, quote unquote, not to say that people are lazy, but I think that, you've always got someone telling you to, schedules are shorter and whatever. And you gotta like pick your battles, I suppose.
What battle is that? You lost already.
Yeah.
It says, you got to go 6,500 and see what happens. So yeah, get someone else. I'm not the guy for you.
Yeah.
What is that? What does that even mean? Do you know? It's horrible. It's just that we've all watched the same shows and you've seen like battle scenes and there's like somewhere in there as a man advancing with a sword, you practically have to subtype it. So you blew it. It's what 120-foot lifts are for. That's what balloons are for. There's 1,000 million years of technology that we can use. That's an exaggeration. There's 100 years technology.
Right.
We can light a battle scene. You don't need to do that.
Yeah. I mean, jumping ahead a little bit, but in the Civil War battle scene, the night scenes, I suppose, those looked great. I was sitting there going like, I like the little silvery blue highlight. I very much enjoyed that look that you were able to pull off.
Yeah, thanks very much. That was no camera trickery there. Maybe 1280 ASA, maybe. I don't think so though. I think it was 800.
Really?
Picked our color. Got lucky with a full moon. It matched perfectly. That's a real full moon. We didn't put that in. And it was the 120-foot lifts with 2 LRX 18Ks in them, 4-cornered it, and always backlit. Lights inside the tents, fire, and hidden instruments, actually baby softs behind coffins and whatnot for Bradley Cooper to catch light. But I'm not afraid of the dark. He can drift in, he can drift out. Yeah, that's how we did it. Old-fashioned, very old-fashioned, and very fast. I mean, we did that. That episode was 9 days, and that night was a split. It wasn't a full night.
Do you find that shooting something, like a period piece where ostensibly it's you're just outside, like, is that easier than shooting a modern film where like in terms of the aesthetic of it, does that become easier or harder when you have to match like a period? Because in my head there's no electricity, so it's like, are you able to just kind of lean on, there's no electricity in the story, are you able to lean on naturalism, I suppose, or just shooting it as is, or where am I going with this? Is it harder to shoot like a period piece over a more modern piece?
That's a really good question, actually. Give yourself some credit. That's a really good question.
Thank you.
Think about it. No, I don't think it's harder. You light it like there isn't electricity. Everything has to be motivated. It's very important. Everything's motivated. A light touch is very important because back in the day, there weren't single source lights unless there were windows. It was multiple sources, candles, fires, that type of thing. So you must remain disciplined and make sure that just at a shot, there isn't an instrument like giving them a gentle rim. It's because that's clear. That's what that is. You just got to be careful. Otherwise you can drift quickly out of the world you're trying to build into a studio-esque feel, which I think would be unfortunate. I think. I mean, people do things differently, but I think that would have been a shame to do that.
Yeah. Well, and I just realized as you were talking too, like a nice little thing about, to your point about like candles in tents or whatever. Technically, a big muslin tent for the light source is a pretty good little soft source that you can run through.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you though, those tents were very, very difficult to work with.
Oh, really?
The production design was incredible, but anyway you slice it, but if you're lucky, they're beige. If you're unlucky, they're just white. So you're noon, outside, bright sun, you're sitting in like one of those sort of eBay product boxes, it's boom. just blazing, so that all has to be controlled. And at night, you've got the same problem, but opposite. It's whatever light source you put in there, it just lights up like a Christmas tree. So you really have to be disciplined about it. Be very, very careful where the light goes and what it's doing. Because otherwise, it just gets very even very quickly, which you don't want. What I don't want.
What was the generalized approach? Because obviously the main show takes place all modern.
Yeah.
And I know that on the main show, you know, like each character is kind of presented in a specific way and all this, but what were the discussions around, all right, we're going to make a period, you know, flashback sort of sequence almost. How far away do you drift from the look of the normal show, and what do you do to keep it sort of in line with the regular look?
There was no mandate to do that. It wasn't even a discussion. There should be some sort of tie-in to episode 2 through 9. This is completely standalone. So there were no restrictions whatsoever on the look, the production design, the colors, nothing. You do whatever we wanted, and we did. You're supposed to watch that episode, and if you didn't watch the rest of it, it wouldn't matter. That episode was a mini feature film.
Yeah. And I read that you were using different lenses for day and night.
Yeah, I did actually. I mean, it's a bit of an exaggeration, to be honest. I really basically stuck with the Zeiss Supremes. I've got the Leicas, and the Leicas, you know, arguably the best lenses in the world. I mean, they're gorgeous and stuff, but man, these Supremes, there's just something about them. It's you know, I could get all flowery with my language and make crap up to sound intelligent, but there will be things, the way the bokeh works, you know, the soft focus, there'd be horizontals, there'd be shapes in the background that would go soft but maintain the shapes. Does that make sense?
Yep.
It wouldn't just turn into like a blobby mess. It wouldn't just, I could tell even 150 yards away at a 2.8 what that person's doing back there. They're very soft, but there's some sort of sense of resolution, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They just grew and grew and grew on me. And the Leicas, I felt sure, would be the lenses for the night stuff in the tents, because they're so warm and so rich and stuff. And I did do some stuff with them, but I'd have to ask the first they see Damon about it. I'm pretty sure we just kept going back to the Supremes.
Yeah. Well, you're right about the bokeh change, especially a lot of the newer lenses coming out are easy to shoot wide open. You know, they maintain sharpness, but you're right. Like the background, it's kind of the funny thing of like when we had digital before, like good digital, you know, let's say the D21 or Red One or whatever. You know, you were trying to reach this quality level. I feel like the same thing has happened with lenses where it was like, oh, bokehs can get very like crisp and kind of too chattery. And then now we have these things that just turn the background into a smeary painting, which is pretty in some cases, you know, but I think we're starting to lose the, you know, production designer did a whole bunch of work. It's kind of sad to just like wash it away, you know.
Well, that's it. I just won't do it. So an episode where all of the Gemstones episode is Richard Wright, is arguably the top 5 production designer in the country, right? The bloke's amazing. We rarely shoot open more than sort of a 2.8.5, 4. We just want to see what's back there.
Mm.
And to your point about lenses, longer lenses, it's you know, whatever. Where the money is in the wider lenses. So wider lenses that don't make your face look like a balloon. So you put a 29 on, and so you could still shoot an attractive woman on a 29 on an expensive lens. Do you know what I mean? You put a Schneider up 29, but she's going to look like Humpty Dumpty. It's just, it doesn't work. That's the money on the wider ends of your lenses, from 50 down to 16. That's where you see where the technology is in the glass.
Yeah. Were you ever on, maybe it wasn't you, but were you ever on the cinematography.net website forums? No. Because when I was doing some research, there's a guy named Paul Daley that was asking about mixing lenses. And I was like,
oh, maybe it was
the same one.
God, it was me. I mean, Paul Daley's going to be.
Yeah, there can only be one or two. They were asking about shooting like different mixing lenses for 16 mil, and
Oh no.
someone from the Joker team was like, "Here's all the lenses we use." And it was like everything under the sun, and I was like, "That's interesting. I didn't know that about that."
Oh. Oh, Daley's. Maybe there are. Don't know.
Yeah.
What did he say? Was it intelligent? Shall I just claim it?
Yeah, no, it was just, you know what, the question was asked and then it was answered and then no follow up. So it's like that's classic forum behavior. No discussion.
It was probably complete gibberish, and those
Yeah,
people are like feeling sorry for me. Like, oh my god, what did he just say?
yeah.
An idiot.
Well, and it was a relatively recent post. So I was like, I don't think this is a question from someone who's been working recently. But I did want to go back to the idea of like, I had heard that you, on the sort of normal series of Gemstones, that maybe not each character, but certainly some characters are treated differently when they're on screen. And I was wondering if you could elaborate like what that means. I know with John Goodman's character, there's a lot of like, shooting up at him and stuff like that, but and maybe like filming them in the way that they idealize themselves and not necessarily objectively. And I was wondering if you could, again, like elaborate how you shoot each character, if that's the case, or who specifically gets a different look than the other ones.
There isn't a grand scheme behind it, but you touched on it. John Goodman, we always make him heroic. We sort of, the Russian propaganda posters, you just make him look like the patriarch that he is.
Mm.
We're always kind to the ladies. Always, it's just the camera goes where it looks best. Especially for obvious reasons. You put the camera where it's flattering. For people like BJ, he had last season, his character took such a dark turn. He got horribly beaten up. I mean, it really got dark. So we went in that direction with it. We lit it that way. And there was a particular scene, I think it was episode 7, I can't remember, but Edie Patterson was sitting alone at an opulent dinner table waiting for BJ. She doesn't know where he is, and he's just got his ass kicked by her took-old boyfriend thing, and he comes in and he's battered. And she's at the dinner table and she runs over to him and he just gives her the hand and starts walking up the stairs. And we lit it very noir with shadows on the stairs, and up he went, and she just burst into tears and sort of fell on the ground. And it was about as far from comedy as you could get. Do you know what I mean? It was one of those. So I'm sort of deviating here, but what I did, I got it lit up and just went over to Edie and said, Edie, no comedy in this lighting, just letting you know, whichever direction you're taking this, you say, hey, thanks for that. And I did the same for BJ. Said, listen, we've gone really dark with this. So whatever you do, it'll make sense. He's like, hey, thanks a lot. And that's the direction they took it. It was cool. And I found actually with even season 2, when I shot a couple of episodes, it was kidnappings and stuff. I found when I lit it dark, the actors went dark. You know what I mean? It started to get menacing, which was, I thought, really cool. Yeah, it works.
Well, that's the same idea with like why I believe actors prefer, a set or location over, obviously green screen, but even probably LED walls, just because they're doing make believes, and it's easier to make believe if it's real, something that they can physically interact with. And it's the same thing with lighting.
It has to be that way. I can't speak for them, but yeah, I mean, Gemstones, we only have 2 or 3 sets as cover sets. Everything is location.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're in magnificent mansions, and that incredible building where all the portraits are on the wall, where the knights, whatever they call themselves. Remember the guys who've got the crazy capes on, right. The Cape and Pistol Club, and that's an actual location in downtown Charleston.
Oh, really?
Pillars, spiral staircases, all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's incredible. It's a real opportunity to get in there and do stuff.
Well, and I imagine, just based on what you're saying earlier, that locations probably give you maybe not an easier job in various ways, but it's easier to be inspired by where the light should come from, what it should look like and stuff when it's all presented to you versus having to make it up from scratch on a built set.
Yeah, so it's very astute of you. I mean, when I walk into locations, I look at it right as it is. I mean, I presume an architect designed this place with something in mind. Right. I can't imagine he just plonked it north-south without thinking about it. So I look at where the windows are. I go there. Sometimes it's handy. I go on a director scout. Then when they pick the location, I go on a location scout, take pictures, see how it looks, and what's wrong with this. Let's make it shootable. I'll do that a lot.
Yeah. How has the look changed throughout the seasons, or have you kind of, obviously, like we said, it's varies across individual seasons, but has there been like maybe advancements in technology or just ideas or things that have come to you over the past handful of years that have made you go like, "Oh, let's do this now"?
Yeah. The look evolved, I think. I mean, you're probably a better judge of it than me. I mean, I think it's clearly different from season 1 to season 4.
Right.
I spoke to Jody Hill about it because Jody directs the lion's share of the episodes, and I said, "Look, I'd really like to take it in this direction." And I referenced the Ipcris file. I talk about that movie a lot. Just the way it's shot, the way things are covered, the way wide shots are handled, the way the night stuff is handled. I said, "This is what I want to do." He said, "Okay, but if I don't like it, you shift it right back." I said, "Yeah, no problem." And I just never heard another thing about it. So I take that as, don't ask too many questions, right?
Right.
You only get a no if you ask a question, so just don't ask.
Do you like, what was it about the Ipcris file that stood out to you? Obviously, like Jody Wales for episode 1 came up, but like there's hundreds of films you could probably pick. What was it about that one that stood out as like, "Oh, that's the move"?
It's the way the bloke shot. Otto Heller is his name. He did Alfie as well, which is another masterpiece. The way he establishes his scenes the traditional way, right? He doesn't. He's got the camera on the floor, and it's a pain in the ass because where's he putting his lights and stuff? He doesn't worry about it, and it's just, I'm like, wow, what an interesting opening shot. And it's static as opposed to a moving master. Who does that? And then when he comes in for his coverage, it'll be a man at a desk and a man standing. It'll be the man at the desk looking at the man standing. And rather than the camera traditionally over the shoulder looking down, sort of a, over the shoulder / POV thing, it's a body eye. So the eye line is up here. But I know where we are. I can see what's going on. I have confidence. He has confidence. The audience knows what's going on. It's that kind of thing. And the coverage from the other side will be over the shoulder and him looking down. So the coverage doesn't match because, people get forensic about it. Oh, what did we shoot this on? Well, that was a 50. Make sure this is a 50. He just threw that out the window. So I did too.
Were there other films just in your career that kind of inspired you to tackle? Because obviously everyone is drawn to film or whatever their art form is by way of their favorite art. Like, what were your kind of favorite films coming up that made you go like, "Ooh, that type of," and I guess especially with gaffing, like that light, that's the lighting, that's a little bit of me there.
Well, there's one, I mean, that was brilliant cinematographer as well, but Gordon Willis,
of course.
I think it starts and ends with him, in my opinion. It's anything, Broadway Danny Rose. It's a comedy. It's amazing, beautiful. Godfather, where you going? It's just endless. The parallax view. And I referenced the parallax view on Gemstones. Richard Wright, production designer, he was building the sets where Baby Billy pitches his insane ideas. Kids sit on those thrones with those enormous friezes behind them. Richard's like, "What do you got in mind?" I said, "How about the congressional panel scene in the parallax view?" Which I don't know if you've seen that movie, but these fake politicians sit there, and it's like the Warren Commission. It's supposed to be the Warren Commission. It's like, the committee finds there is no further need to investigate. And these like drone guys, and it's just like heavily top lit. It's awesome. First to Richard, "Let's do the parallax view." It's like, okay. So that's what we did.
Yeah.
So I just shamelessly lifted Gordon Willis.
There's across all these conversations, there's always like Gordon will pop up, Deakins will pop up. obviously for a lot of us, it's like, well, I watched, Spielberg, Janus, whoever. Have you seen any more modern films that you're like, this, I think this guy or girl might be, the next one that we'll be referencing for a while?
Well, that's a really good question. I got to think about that. What did I see recently? I saw, I'm a little behind. It's actually a television show. It's called Pennyworth. English television show, and it's about Batman's butler, Alfred.
Yeah.
His previous life, and it's beautiful. I don't know who shot it, but it's a real homage to Michael Caine stuff. Yeah, for instance, there was a very profile shot actually, and there was a road sign, a street sign, and it said Micklewhite Way, because Michael Caine's name is Maurice Micklewhite.
Right.
I was watching it, and the lead actor, who I don't know, is affecting a real Michael Caine style, and they've done it. They've shot it very Otto Heller. And I just started it a couple of months ago. But I think my dad recommended it. Watch it. Anybody who's sort of interested in what we're talking about, you should watch it. It's very impressive.
It's funny that I just wrote it down. I got nothing to do today. I'll probably just watch it now. But it's funny how these weird little side shoot shows of like minor characters are just rife for great storytelling. Andor, obviously, recently, brilliant show, right? And it's like, we need to be, because I've always said, like, we need to stop remaking good movies and start remaking movies that maybe had a good idea but missed the mark.
You're so right. That's a very astute observation. So why would you touch, well, no one's done McCabe and Mrs. Miller, but why would you touch like Bullet again? I mean,
right.
Like what? Come on.
Because you're only like, the chances of you doing it better are so slim. And it's like, especially if it's, because obviously producers or studios or whoever they are, they see there was money there and success. They're like, well, let's do it again. It's like, that's not how that works. You're only going to disappoint people.
But I do get the theory.
Sure.
Do. The Italian Job. Have you seen the original Italian Job?
Yeah. Isn't that more Michael Caine?
Of course. Yeah. I think I have a Michael Caine affectation, obviously. But
yeah.
I actually worked with him. It was really cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we went to a party together. It was great. He's a really good bloke, actually.
Yeah.
But that movie, it's untouchable. The Mini Coopers start racing up and down stairs, going over rooftops, all this crazy stuff. And the Mark Wahlberg one, it's like, yeah, whatever. It's perfectly acceptable. It's not bad even. Maybe it's okay. Nowhere near the original.
Yeah. There's a few films, like, did you ever see Dread?
I did.
That was one where I was like, okay, so you didn't really remake it. You just took the character and made a different thing. That I'm cool with, because I actually really enjoyed that new Dread.
Actually, that was... Wait, no, I saw the Sylvester Stallone one. Is there another one?
There's another one with Carl Urban.
Oh.
And
the Sylvester Stallone one, that was almost an awesome film.
Yeah.
So that close.
So that's the thing. I think that was right on the line of, like, because I enjoyed the Sylvester Stallone one from like I wouldn't say it's campy, but I enjoy that film. And I like a good, like, silly action movie. But the Dread, it's just called Dread, with Carl Urban, completely different take, and not even the same storyline. Just like only the character gets moved over, and the helmet never comes off like the comic book. And it's just and it's a little funny, but not in a kind of, it's not a comedy. Obviously, it's just he's so stoic and like brutal that it's funny. And yeah, it's just a good time. But why did I start talking about the remakes and stuff? Crap.
Oh, well, we're just talking about what you said was, why don't they make films that didn't land again and leave the classics alone?
Yeah. But there was something right before that spurred them. Anyway, but I do.
Before you change the subject, when was the last time you saw RoboCop?
Oh, you know what's crazy? Like 3 nights ago. So my local bar by my house, they always at night, they just play movies. Granted, there's no audio, but they leave the subtitles out for it. So I was watching it, 4 days ago in a bar, the perfect place for it.
Just so, like the Moving Masters, I'm watching it. I'm like, that's an 8-minute take.
Yeah.
extras that, when he's going into the squad room and stuff and guys are getting changed and putting on their gear to go out and fight crime. I'm watching this thing go around and there's crosses and passes. And I'm like, that's half a day there, that shot. I mean, that is a really impressive film. It really is. It'd be very hard to do. If you copied that shot by shot, man, that would be a 6-month schedule for that film. It's really good.
And that film was ostensibly low budget, apparently.
Yeah, you can see it. I mean, you can see where they didn't have quite enough, but boy, they rang every penny out of that camera department. I tell you, I was very impressed.
Yeah, and who did all the visual effects? Was that Phil Tippett? I think it was Phil Tippett did all the...
Well, in the Steadicam, it had to have been Garrett Brown or someone on Steadicam, right? Because it was really good. It's got to be someone like that.
It is kind of a bummer that the interest in filmmaking as a career has exploded, because now, you can point to one Steadicam op then, and it's like, well, how would we know? There was only, granted, it's better that more people are telling stories. A diversity in storytelling is always an improvement, but in terms of just getting jobs, it's a little harder when at least for me, when the field is that saturated. How did you get involved with Gemstones anyway?
That's a good question. Well, man, it was a very circuitous and fortunate route. I was the A camera operator on Halloween, the 2016 one.
Mm-hmm.
And Danny McBride was the writer of it, I think. So I was in South Carolina. I wasn't aware of Eastbound and Down or any of that. And I'm down there, I'm doing my thing. That was a really cool movie. That went very well. I
enjoyed that one.
It was good, right? The lightning in a bottle on that one. And anyway, McBride was there and we would chat and whatnot. That show went well. Then Gemstones was starting, and that DP brought me in on Gemstones as the A operator. And they have a very tight clique. The company's called Rough House, and it's Jody Hill, Danny McBride, David Gordon Green, and who's the fourth one? Jonathan Watson, I think. They're very, very, very tight, and it's very difficult to get in there. And I just sort of wandered in without any sort of preconceived notions. I got very fortunate. They just sort of let me into their clique, and I was A operator. Mike Simmons, the director of photography, went on vacation to Japan for 3 weeks in the middle of the episode. I took over for those 3 weeks. It went well, and I ended up shooting Jody's episodes from there on out until I took over the show. I did half the episodes in season 2, and then took over in season 3. That's how it happened.
Gotcha. And what do you think? This is kind of maybe not a personal question, but what do you think leads to someone getting that type of advancement? Like what personal qualities do you think someone should aspire to have to work their way up a ladder of that kind? Well, because you could just stay as a gaffer or a camera operator your whole life.
Yeah, you could, and that'd be a very noble career. It's probably wise. But the answer to your question is this, and it's there isn't a career path. There just isn't one. Right. It just, things happen the way they happen. So with any job on a film set, the assumption is you know what you're doing. And after that, it's a popularity contest, right? It's like you got the job because you know the producer, you know this, you know the blah, blah, the usual nonsense. You just have to be completely ready when that opportunity comes. I didn't know Mike was going on holiday, and I didn't know I was taking over the scenes. The toughest scenes of that entire show were in the Club Sinister. Do you remember? And season 1, it was all it was a disused powerhouse, and it was crazy shit all over the place. I took over. That's where I stepped off the camera and jumped into that. Oh my God! But I was ready. I had the knowledge. I knew I did okay. Yeah. I knew what I was doing. So that would be the overriding factor. You got to be fully prepared for when the opportunity comes, because everybody gets one, but you might not get 2.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
One of my favorite musicians, Josh Homme, I think he said something along the lines of opportunity is where preparation meets luck.
100%. And, you know, truthfully, one doesn't happen without the other. You need both.
Yeah.
You do. But if you get the opportunity and you blow it because you weren't ready, well, that's on you. You know, it really is.
I've certainly had a number of situations that my life would probably be different. Not necessarily because I wasn't prepared. I was given opportunities that no amount of preparation would have. The opportunity was it was built for someone else. You know what I mean? Like I was prepared for a maybe 1 to 2 level jump, and I was given like a 15. And I was like, I have no, you know, it'd be like I just got out of film school and got offered a feature. It's like there's no shot. There's just that would have been. I don't know how to run a crew at that point. You know, that kind of thing. And that's always a bummer to think about. But it's like, listen, it wouldn't have gone better if I did it. And
yeah, but when I say preparation isn't a great word, is it? It's preparation's like saying gravity. What is preparation?
Right.
Ultimately, you have to have garnered the experience, the 10,000 hours. There's absolutely something to that. You got to put in the time. You really do. You can't just wander in there and hope the gaffer can light it, hope the key grip can rig it, hope the production designer's got a plan, hope the board operator knows to do this. You have to know what you want them to do. It's not their job to do that. Your job is to do that.
Well, and I think too with especially younger filmmakers, because I try to be as educational as I can. You know, whatever I learn, I try to pass it on. And one of the things that I think is frustrating is with the internet, frustrating to younger filmmakers. With the internet, you can have a lot of knowledge, way more than if you just had to find some random book that's out of print, you know, and that's all you've got. But I think with that comes the expectation that you now have that knowledge, therefore you are qualified.
Yes.
And you can't jump the line like that. You can't be so educated. You know, education isn't very important, but experience is a necessary yin to that yang.
Well, look, I mean, there used to be typewriters, right? Then the word processor came out. It didn't make the word processor didn't turn everybody into Henry David Thoreau, did it?
Right.
The tool to type things. So the internet will give you 5 quotes about like the Maisel brothers and the filming of The Salesman and stuff. It's like, yeah, but do you know how to do that? Because I do. But you just read about it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Because you were talking about documentaries, and let's sort of get a bit tangential here. Barbara Koppel in Harlan County, USA. That's an absolute masterpiece, you know, and that's a doc. And there's no excuses made. It's shot beautifully. The Salesman is one of the best looking movies ever. And it happens to be a documentary. That's Al Mason. You know, I'm watching it. I'm like, how are you moving this camera? I know you don't have a dolly. It's a masterpiece. You know, and these are people who master their craft, who just know what they're doing. And no amount of internet surfing is going to get you there. You must, I don't know if you go to school. I don't know if you grab a camera. I don't know if you work in the grip department, electric department. I don't know what you got to do, but you must have experience. You must know how this stuff works. You won't go there and just conduct it like an orchestra. It just won't work.
Yeah. From my point of view, I do feel like, you know, my generation certainly was told, we were all told, you know, go to school, get any degree, and that'll help. And I think there's some revisionist history on this. I've heard a lot of, you know, people's parents of our age being like, we never said that. It's like, how did we all have the same dream then? You know, like we didn't all make this up. But if you can afford film school, I say do it, because it'll help jumpstart a lot of things. But I think, to your point, I think grabbing a camera and finding as many friends that are interested in playing make-believe will teach you far more, and using those lessons you learned online, you know. But when that knowledge hits practicality, you'll learn a lot more than, you know, especially running crews. Like working with other people is, it's the more online you are, the less you will work with other people, and that makes you less prepared for film.
To your point, I mean, there's who wrote the article that you're quoting? Who is this masked man?
Right.
How do you know this person has any idea what they're talking about? What if there's, you know, what if they're selling you Enron? You know, what is this? They just set you up for another Ishtar. What's going on here? How do you know? you know, you got to be careful where this information's coming from. You need to align yourself with someone you know knows what they're talking about, and just be there.
Yeah, that was legitimately when I started writing for Pro Video Coalition like 8-10 years ago, whatever it was. One thing I had to start doing immediately, because I had that exact thought, is like, no one's going to take me serious, because I was writing alongside like people who were established. Like I've said this a million times, this guy Art Adams, he's now the ARRI lens specialist, but just a brilliant mind altogether, great DP. And I was like, no one's going to read my articles if they don't know who I am. So I started, you know, like every article I'd make, I would have like a YouTube video separate so they just could see me, and like I could use whatever gear I was reviewing in like a scene or something to prove I knew what I was talking about, at least in this space. Because otherwise, like you're saying, it's like, who's David Smith, you know, like.
So true. And as far as film school goes, I mean, I would encourage you to go. I didn't go. I left school at 15 and came to the States when I was 20 and rode around on a motorcycle and wound up, you know, pure chance in the film.
That's a school in and of itself.
It is. However, if you go to film school, you got to go at it. That you got to be so annoying to that teacher. You got to draw every ounce of knowledge out of that guy. That by the time he's done, he's like a wet paper bag on the floor. There's nothing left. You've dragged everything out of that person. Yeah. That's how it be. Don't go in there and just float around and like, oh, maybe I'll be a sound man. Maybe I'll be this. It's like, figure out what it is you want to do, but then like attack. And in your 4 years or however long it is, make sure you've just gotten everything you can get out of it. Because I do know some people who went to film school, and some of them were very bright, but really not particularly. They can talk about new wave art films and things like that, which I can't do, but it didn't help them in their career. They couldn't find a way to leverage what it is they learned. And that's a big mistake. You know, it's like going to school to be an electrician and coming out and not knowing how to be an electrician. What happened?
Right. Well, and I can say sort of on the flip side of that coin, I was the one who largely floated around, and I can tell you it doesn't work. I did same thing with the motorcycle idea. There was a lot of other life experience that certainly helped me out leaving, but from the film side of things, I had to catch up, you know, after, which I don't know if I would trade it, but it certainly didn't serve my film career for the first handful of years. You know?
Yeah, it's hard for me because I never went, so I can't be objective.
No, but you're right. I mean, that's speaks to my experience at least.
Yeah.
I did want to actually touch on something going back to Gemstones. You had mentioned for the Civil War episode, trying to emulate the silver nitrate prints.
Yeah.
And I was wondering because that is almost the polar opposite of film, like motion picture. In what ways were you able to achieve that? And at any point did you go 100% in that look, maybe in the grade, and then dial it back, or like what were the aesthetics there that you were able to achieve, and maybe which ones didn't fit that idea?
Well, the pictures, those photographs are epic, aren't they? I mean, everyone's seen those Civil War pictures. So I looked into that.
They're almost hyper real.
Well, they are, right? So there was a breakthrough, this Collodon process, where the exposures went from 2 minutes to like 30 or 40 seconds, which really got it looking good, because then everything wasn't, because you blink on a 2-minute exposure, you're just a blurry mess, right? So I looked at those ones. Some French bloke came up with it. And what I noticed was how they're obviously in some sort of studio or some sort of environment. There were tableaus, and they would just drop these guys into these tableaus.
With the tent behind them and everything.
Right. It'd be a soldier and a kid and a bottle of whiskey or something, and then they just swapped out the backgrounds that will remain the same. So I just did that. So I'd find these, what I thought were interesting backgrounds with direct sun, so they made that crazy, and then just build a black box, put our people in the black box, passive filled them with a 12 by muslin, overcranked the camera, and had them sort of sit as still as they could. And as soon as you tell someone to sit still, they start twitching and moving and stuff. And it worked great. Their blinks are slow, so it's 60 frames per second. And it really, it's super effective. It really invoked like ghosts, like these, because there's some of those our subjects were like 16, 17, 18, they're children, and they're dead now.
Right.
That's what those photographs, or my representation of those photographs, was supposed to represent. Like, the dead people now, they're gone.
Right. And you're specifically talking about that kind of montage, I suppose, during the where it's just like snap, 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 snap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 500,000 men died in that war, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also found I don't know if I would say it was smart, because I don't but I found it interesting that at no point do we discuss necessarily the morality of which side is fighting, which side Mr. Gemstone is picking, because he's just a scoundrel regardless. Like, either side, he would have been a piece of shit. So what I thought that was a cool little a narrative thing. It's like, yeah, all right, he's on the South, but he doesn't seem to care.
What a narrative masterpiece that was, because you're the only person that's touched on that. And while I was doing it, I'm like, that's a fucking Confederate flag flapping back there.
Yeah.
No one said a word, which is it's a massive success. You're watching, not getting ready to get offended. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And you're right. He's a Union soldier until it's convenient to be a Confederate soldier, until it's convenient to be a Union soldier, until it's convenient to get the hell out of there with his money,
Yeah.
Yeah, so you nailed it with that, and I'm proud of that. And nothing to do with me, but it's like no one ever drifted into the sensitivities of the 21st century while we're taking pictures of the 1900s or the 19th century,
Right.
1850s.
Well, and it sets up the main show so well, because it's like, grifters will do it. That's their job, is to grift, not to choose sides, so to speak,
And I mean, what a performance by Bradley Cooper, right?
Yeah, he's pretty good at his job.
He's not bad. Yeah, definitely. I gave him a couple of pointers along the way. I'm like, Bradley, maybe you should look this way.
Sure.
No, I didn't do that. Really didn't. No, he was the absolute master of his art. I mean, he made that easy. If that guy picked his nose, it would look awesome.
Did he have any input on anything? Because he's directed a handful of times, hasn't he?
He did the Gershwin film, right? The Maestro.
Yeah, Did he direct that? No, I didn't see that one, so I'm a little ignorant on it. But obviously, I knew about it.
It's good. I think Chivo. It's not bad.
I got it. I probably should just get that on Blu-ray. I have a big old Blu-ray, and I don't. These days, I don't even bother with streaming, because half the time, if it's not on the streamer, it's just like, oh, you can buy it. And then I'm like, but I'm not buying it. I'm buying a license to watch it until you decide otherwise. So now I just go and wait for the movie to be roughly the same price as the digital purchase. And I just, put it on the shelf. So I'll have to pick that one up. But in any case, was he maybe potentially not directly like, hey, we should do this, but did he impart any sort of education on anyone that you saw?
No, not education. He's super involved. That word collaboration sucks, doesn't it? It's just a catch-all word. Ooh, we collaborate. Ooh, right. Look how nice I am. I collaborate.
Well, nowadays it's collabs.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, all the kids are collabing.
Yeah, that's not going to fit my lexicon at all. My lexicon is mostly swear words, but
right.
The first scene in the church where Abel Greaves was stealing all the money from the women and children and stuff. He sits up behind the priest. Remember that? And then he gets up and he just leans on the post. That's
out of focus.
Well, right. But that's the first time we see Elijah. It's the first time we see Elijah Gemstone. So I said to him, what do you want to do? How do you want me to reveal it? You want to be behind the post? You want to be slightly in front of the post? Do you want to be leaning over? Tell me what you want. And let's say, we'll light it. So we messed around with it. He said, like this. I said, all right. So we did that, because it's crucial how we see the guy for the first time. And then when we got into the tents, memories sort of differ. I think I came up with it. I think Bradley thinks he came up with it. Maybe we came up with it together. But with the Ned shot, what was his name? Last time, Ned Rollins. When Ned Rollins gets murdered by Bradley, sitting there counting the money, we matched that shot perfectly to the final shot of the episode where he reads the Bible and finds God. So that's the exact shot match. And when we were in the tent, I think Bradley said, it'd be awesome if we matched that shot, the M1, or some version of that. So, but that's what we did.
It's good bookends.
Yeah, it was really cool, man. So that one, the Ned Rollins getting murdered was actually on the campsite in the middle of the night, and the final scene in the film was in the defunct Sears in Charleston. made it look like that. It was a good match, though, right?
I thought the whole thing was location. I didn't know you had any set work on that.
Just that we did the gambling, the card game. That was on the stage, and the final scene was on the stage. That was it. Everything else was out there.
How do you? Because I've seen a couple. Maybe this was for Gemstones, but I follow a bunch of cinematographers and gaffers and stuff on Instagram, and I remember someone pointing out that they were shooting in, I think it was a Sears or something, like a defunct Sears, and it's like how does one find a mall? First of all, we should just be changing malls across America into shooting stages and stuff. That'd be great. If they're not going to be places where the youths can hang out, let's make them worth something. But like, what are the challenges of shooting in a department store that's empty? Like, because obviously the grid's not set up for it. Like what kind of retrofitting do you do?
Well, that's it. You've nailed it, really. You pull down the suspended ceiling, but the roof, there's girders up there. It's only about 15 feet. It's really tricky. It's really tricky. Yeah, that's it.
Is there any advantage to shoot? Is it just price? Like it's easy to rent that out?
Well, the advantage is everybody's in the same place. So wardrobe, electric, grip, props, everybody is in the same space. So that's really awesome. You're not driving around back lot or going God knows where to the prop department. It's everything's there. So that's a huge advantage. Parking is brilliant. There's nothing but yeah, it's good. There's a local bar nearby. That's good. That's always helpful. But apart from that, no huge advantage to shooting in a Sears.
Yeah, that is smart. We might be onto something. There's a lot of. Hey, I'll you can co-sign it and we'll give you 10%.
Well, I think that's sort of got Danny McBride written all over it. I bet you $50 that was his idea.
He was like, "Hey, there's a Sears by my house."
That's very much his thinking. It really is. I mean, I don't know. I haven't got any insider information. I could text him and ask him, but I bet you it was his idea.
No, that's another guy. Him and like John C. Reilly are two people that I think are cut from the same cloth, where it's like they're both hilarious and narratively, very intelligent and are able to kind of pick a genre and go.
Yeah, I mean, Danny McBride, I can't speak to John C. Reilly, but Danny McBride, underestimate him at your peril. You'll only do that. You won't be back. Very smart guy.
But, I know we're a little over, and I'll let you go in a second, but I did want to talk about briefly the idea of shooting ostensibly a comedy in a very serious way. And when do you break from that, if at all? And how shooting something with dramatic intent can enhance comedy?
I think it does. If you've got talented players, again, everything sounds... I don't mean it to sound like I'm blowing smoke up everybody's ass, but that cast, they're really good.
Right.
They don't really need my help for the comedy. And I'm not even sure. I don't believe in that old adage, there's nothing funny about shadows. I don't even know who coined that. It doesn't make any sense. Like the guy that shot Chinatown, shot Bad News Bears. They look the same.
Yeah.
Alonzo, right? This is fantastic. I actually used that in an interview for a movie. So that's the same DP. I actually got the movie based on that. So to your point, I don't like Gemstones like a comedy. I mean, I don't go as dark as I would if it were a thriller, but the light intention is the same. Maybe there's a half a stop more filled than there would be if it was a thriller. But I sort of take pride in making it look non-comedic in as much it should be visually interesting.
Well, and I think too, if you take the cinematography seriously, the words that are spoken, even if they are comedic, don't become then absurd.
Right.
Like it maybe just serves the wrong word, but like I feel like if you were to light it like what's that other Danny McBride movie? Hot Rod. that is almost fantastical. Whereas this show isn't necessarily. Well, I guess you've got like monster truck scenes and ninjas.
Ninjas. Yeah.
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 I mean, look, let's talk about the motorcycle ninjas for a minute. I mean, you talk about the scale of the show. So do you remember the scene where they're racing and wheeling and stabbing each other with cattle prods and going over the handlebars and all that crap? So we scout that, and it's a 1.5 mile road in the middle of Charleston. And I get there, I look at it, I'm like, well, none of these lights work. None of the street lights work.
Mm.
I'm like, you got to replace them. And they said, okay. So they did. So it's like 1.5 miles and replaced all the lights. And then Eddie Boland, the ring electrician, I said, I got even more good news. They put sensors on top of those. You got to cap every one of those sensors because we got our lifts and our HMIs. And if you don't, the HMIs are going to turn the street lights off that you just put up.
Right.
So that was the scale of that show. I mean, there really was no. Like, you remember when you're starting out and you didn't know what you're doing, you'd say, well, yeah, but if I had a 50-foot techno and 120-foot condors, I could do it. And then someone says, okay.
Yeah.
And you're, shit. Where do I put this stuff? How do I do it?
So that actually has happened to me, in the past couple of years, where I've talked about this before, but I was told that we were doing a low budget project. And so I was really doing my best to like only use gear that I owned and like trying not to rent as much. And then at one point, the director producer guy goes like, because I was like, yeah, that would have been a lot easier if I just had this. And he was like, well, why didn't you ask for it?
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought this was low budget. And he's like, yeah, well, you got to ask for it. Like, we'll tell you if it's in the budget. Because I was still in the mode of like, if I make this too expensive, they're going to fire me. But once I learned in this case, once you get the job, ask for it. You're not going to get fired because you asked. You're going to get fired for wasting money if you ask for it and then you don't use it. But if you ask for it and they give it to you, then we're good.
To your point, nobody remembers the conversation of, Daley, he's great, he saved us a fortune. Those conversations don't happen.
Right.
No one remembers that. They don't remember that you had a 50-foot Technocrane and condors. They just know it looked good. What they do remember is it looked like shit and we had to reshoot it. That's what they remember. So yeah, be careful with that. It's a hard lesson to learn. I was fortunate on Gemstones, the UPM, David Brightbill, was an AD.
Mm.
We would have very grown-up conversations. I'd tell him, this is what I think. And he would say, his quote, his comeback line was, you explain to me why you need that piece of equipment so I can explain to HBO why you need that piece of equipment. You haven't got to convince me, you've got to convince HBO. I'd be like, great. And I would explain it. So this is why I think you need a 50-foot techno. I don't think you can do it with dolly because of the terrain, whatever the problem is. I think Steadicam is the wrong language and handheld's out. We could do it in cuts, but we know we need this. This is why I think you need that piece of equipment. But I'm open to any and all suggestions. And boom, next day, there's the 50-foot techno.
Yeah.
It's helpful when you've got the UPM that knows what they're talking about.
100%. I'll end on this question because I like it and I try to ask a lot of people this. But when you're designing the language of the show, the whole show, not just the Civil War episode, what don't you do?
What don't I do? Well, I don't know because I didn't do it.
Yeah. Well, but like when you're discussing making the show, obviously you're like, when you said like, oh, handheld is out or whatever, like, is that a hard and fast rule? You're like, all right, this isn't a show where we do this. That's a different movie. That's a different TV show.
No, I was being a bit facetious there. No, I mean, nothing's off the table.
Mm.
I try not to mix languages, meaning you do your masters on dollies, do your mid, your cowboys on dollies and then flip to handheld. I try not to do that.
Mm.
I try not to lean too much into Steadicam instead of dollies. I try not to use a Steadicam instead of a dolly. Do you know what I mean? I use the Steadicam as a Steadicam. I don't like doing that. I don't care how good you are as a Steadicam operator. It's not a dolly shot.
Right.
So that, I think, if I don't really have too many hard and fast rules, that might be one. I would rather not do the shot. If you haven't got time for the dolly shot, then let's just not do it, rather than banging up on the Steadicam and racing, and it's like a fighter jet going down an alleyway.
Right.
I don't want that. Back to that dreaded word, the collab, which I think I'm going to have to use now. I'll just ask, I'm like, what do you think? We've got to get the camera from here to here. How do we do that? I talk to the dolly grip, the key grip, the camera operator. I'm like, this is what I think. Beat it.
Yeah.
And they'll say what they think. And I said, those are terrible ideas. We're going to do what I did.
Yes.
But that's it. So there's nothing's off the table, but I try not to do things like that. I've always said, you really got to know the rules before you break them.
Yeah.
You'll be the people who watch films and like, these films are like shit. They can't tell you why, but as a filmmaker, you should know why. And they're responding to you mixing languages. They're responding to cranking the ISO instead of lighting it. They're responding to too soft and no direction. That's what people who say films look like crap are responding to. It's our responsibility not to do that.
Yeah. Have a vision and stick to it.
Well, just, yeah, again, I feel like I'm contradicting myself all the time. Have your vision, but when things are changing, it's like change the vision. It's like, all right, well, that's not going to work. So let's do this.
You know, that's it. That is something that I've taken from being a magician, is that sometimes halfway through the trick, someone says something, or maybe a card is in the right spot, and you can just the magic trick doesn't exist until it ends. So you can change, you know, along the way, you can change what you're doing until the reveal.
Right.
You know, so you can change your vision in this example. You can change your vision until the release, as long as the journey matches. And the end, the reveal is makes sense for what you've just done and doesn't feel like you were doing 3 tricks and then ended on one of them. You know, I think that works.
Well, I think you've just conjured a metaphor there, because it's see what I did there?
Yeah.
It's no one cares about the process. They just care about the finished image, right?
Yeah.
So exactly the same thing. No one cares. You know, this is actually very prescient. Sometimes you'll be on a film set and you look at all the gear and all the shit and all the stuff and the cranes and all the stuff, and you see the shot. You know, the setup, it's much better than the shot.
Yeah.
The problem. I'm much more interested in the crane than I am in what the crane's doing. That's a problem. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
So exactly what you just said with your magic trick.
Yeah. Well, I know you're working on your film right now, so I'll let you go. But it was wonderful talking to you. And as an aside, a lot, I tell my friends when I'm interviewing new people, and the vast majority of my friend group is just absolutely addicted to the show. So you guys have been doing a great job, and I hope you get to do it as long as you want.
Oh, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure. Thanks for calling. Listen, we'll do it again. We should chat again.
Would love to. But until then, take care, brother.
Man, see you.
Frame and Reference is an Owlbot production, produced and edited by me, Kenny McMillan. If you'd like to support the podcast directly, you can do so by going to frameandrefpod.com and clicking on the Patreon button. It's always appreciated, and as always, thanks for listening.